5 years before the Pilgrims landed, these native people had met Europeans before the Pilgrims arrived. You can clearly see that. We say one such European was Captain Thomas Hunt, who started trading with the native people in 1614. He captured 20 Pawtuckets and 7 Nagasets, selling them as slaves in Spain. Many other European expeditions also lured native people into ships and then imprisoned them and enslaved them. These expeditions carried smallpox, typhus, measles, and other European diseases to this continent. Natives severely decimated. An estimated 72,000 to 90,000 people lived in southern New England before contacts with the Europeans. 100 years later, their number was reduced by 80% in that same area. And I'm looking how that shit really played out. Going on through that document, they basically show, ironically, the first official day of Thanksgiving was proclaimed in 1637 by Massachusetts Governor John Winthrop. He did so to celebrate the safe return of the English colony men from Mystic, Connecticut. They massacred 600 Pequots that had laid down their weapons and accepted Christianity. They were rewarded with the vicious and cowardly slaughtered by their new so-called brothers in Christ. So it's basically on record how they came in one of the tribes, so the gathering of the native people called the Pequots, had laid down their weapons and accepted their weight, and they murdered them and slaughtered them. You know what I'm saying? That's how I basically talk about. A lot of stories talk about basically how they came over here and just basically deboed and tried them motherfuckers.
Snaked them boys.
It's a quote right now. That's a text of plaque on Coles Hill. Coles Hill is located up in Plymouth, up there basically how they said Plymouth Rock and the gathering up there in Massachusetts, up in the New England area. And the text on the plaque of Coles Hill say, since 1970, Native Americans had gathered at noon on Coles Hill in Plymouth to commemorate a national day of mourning on the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday. Many Native Americans do not celebrate the arrival of the Pilgrims and other European settlers. To them, Thanksgiving Day is a reminder of the genocide of millions of their people, the theft of their lands, and the relentless assault on their culture. Participants in the National Day of Mourning honor Native ancestors and the struggles of Native people to survive today. It is a day of remembrance and spiritual connection, as well as a protest of the racism and oppression which Native Americans continue to experience. So this is shit they got on a little rock up there showing, and they view how they view this whole Thanksgiving shit. Because it's always a good side, like I said. More going into the document facts of what they're saying. Right here say William Bradford. William Bradford, in his History of the Plymouth Plantation, described the carnage. And this is on record for what he said. Those that escaped the fire were slain with the sword, some hewed to pieces, others thrown with their rapiers, so as they were quickly dispatched, and very few escaped. It was conceived they thus destroyed about 400 at this time. It was a fearful sight to see them thus frying in the fire, and the streams of blood quenching the same, and horrible was the stench and scent thereof. But the victory seemed a sweet sacrifice, and they gave the prayers thereof to God, who had wrought so wonderfully for them, thus to enclose their enemies in their hands, and gave them so speedy a victory over so proud and insulting an enemy. This is what Cotton Mather said. It was supposed that no less than 600 souls were brought down to hell that day.
Damn.
This is what the crackers saying. This shit is on record. You know what I'm saying? These are the part of the so-called Puritans and Pilgrims. They saying they basically came in. I ain't really got to be a genius to see this shit. All I see is they came in. It was a bunch of motherfuckers already here. And I'm looking at this shit now, and all of a sudden the crackers running all that shit, and these bitches ain't nowhere to be found. Did they just really give their shit away? Did they sell their shit?
Hell no.
I mean, did they? I mean, I don't know. Is it on record that they just said, man, we're gonna sell it for this much, and y'all can have that shit?
Nah, man, they just came in and just took them people's shit, man. You know what I'm saying? You know how they come through with their motherfucking gun-slinging style, and you know they just take what they want.
Basically, from the real history of the shit, I'm saying from the other side that nobody don't never really want to talk about, because people are going to be like, oh, we don't know if that shit true. They just saying that shit. Man, we never heard their side of the story.
Yeah.
All we heard was the motherfucking Pilgrims came, it's all good, they had one big-ass meal.
Black hats on, buckled shoes, know what I'm saying?
All that shit. Next thing you know, they running shit, everybody straight now, it's cool. But what about the other side of that shit? Here go more records of that shit, of the Thanksgiving, the real origin of this shit, because obviously, this some shit started up by the European, you know what I'm saying, ancestors. The crackers came over here and established this shit. So we gotta see basically how that shit started out, and far as us as a people, as far as niggas, how that shit really relate to us. Where does our position come in this whole shit? Let's keep getting into a little history about this shit, man, because as we see right now, we got in so far, motherfuckers don't got bloodshed over this shit, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so let's keep going. In 1621, the myth of Thanksgiving was born. This is a document called Thanksgiving by Tristan Anthon. This found at www.cowboykiller.com. You know what I'm saying? You can look that up for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Some bitches mad as fuck about that shit. So we're going to get their angle on this shit. In 1621, this is about the time all that shit was starting, when crackers was going on. Y'all thinking this shit just started yesterday. In 1621, man, the myth of Thanksgiving was born. The colonists invited Massasoit, chief of the Wampanoags, to the feast as a follow-up to their recent land deal. Massasoit in turn invited 90 of his men, much to the Cali. Well, I don't know what the fuck that shit. That shit was cut off in the air, man. Much to the colonists. 2 years later, the English invited a number of tribes to feast, symbolizing an eternal friendship. English offered food and drink, and 200 Indians dropped dead from unknown poison, they say.
Damn.
That's what it say, you know what I'm saying? Quote, the first day of Thanksgiving took place in 1637 amidst the war against the Pequots. 700 men, women, and children of the Pequot tribe was gathered for their annual green corn dance of what is now Groton, Connecticut. English mercenaries surrounded the camp and proceeded to shoot, stab, butcher, and burn alive all 700 Pequots. Next day, the Massachusetts Bay Colony held a feast and celebration, and the governor declared Thanksgiving. This is what this shit really popped off at. They're talking about how they basically brought the first one and had the celebration of Thanksgiving and basically had a feast happen. A feast and celebration. Yeah. Everybody get together over a feast. They slaughtered the motherfucking native people. They said 700 of them.
Took all their belongings and shit. Tried
them, and then they got a Thanksgiving feast to start it up. And this is documented, they said, 1637. A little more as to keep going, say, in the ensuing madness of the Indian extermination, natives were scalped, burned, mutilated, and sold into slavery, and a feast was held in celebration every time a successful massacre took place. The killing frenzy got so much, even the churches of Manhattan announced the day of Thanksgiving to celebrate victory over the savages, and many celebrated by kicking the severed heads of Pequot people through the streets like soccer balls. The proclamation of 1676 announced the first national day of Thanksgiving with the onset of the Wampanoag, the very people who helped the original colonists survive on their arrival, dog. They stunted on their ass, man.
Yeah, and them boys helped them out. They turned around and offed them.
They killed them, dog. This is where the shit really started from, because a lot of people just doing this shit, man. That's the difference, like I said, between being a jit and grown. When you a jit, you do stuff for no reason. You don't really know no better. You just basically doing what you told. When you get grown, the whole thing that separates children from adults, you do stuff with purpose now. You got to know why you doing, what you doing. You just can't be doing shit like a motherfucking jit for no reason. You know what I'm saying? You doing shit for purpose now. And this is where the shit really started from. This is how the crackers came and started the whole tradition, started up. A feast was started. They even talk about that on the History Channel, talking about the history of Thanksgiving, how the first meal they describe as being having duck. Then now they having certain thing we know mostly with the turkey or the ham or whatever the fuck they do that shit. It's just a Thanksgiving meal, basically how the crackers brought that shit about. A lot of people want to see like, man, yeah, you know, that was back then, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That ain't really got nothing to do with us now, you know what I'm saying? We do it for something different, you know, I want to give thanks and all that. First of all, man, nobody ain't got to tell you when to motherfucking give thanks. Right, you're supposed to give thanks anyway, regardless of what it is, you know what I'm saying? We're going to bring some people in, people calling in on this shit, man. Real Vision, you're live on GMRNStv. Yo, folk.